whatever you wind up doing is exactly what you should be doing.
And I have not behaved one single day of my life. Not one day of my life have I behaved, and I am fine.
I need your help. I can't tell you what it is. You can never ask me about it later, and we're gonna hurt some people.
Whose car are we gonna take?
Thank you for joining us on the Nikki Medoro Show live on YouTube every day, Monday through Friday at noon Pacific time. But you can always watch it anytime. That's the magic of YouTube. Please click that thumbs up button while we're thinking about it. It's right there at the bottom of your screen. It might be, I don't know, it might be over there. It's a thumbs up. It looks just like that. It really helps us out. If I could speak today, there you go. Click that thumbs up. I have some big thank yous to give already. I had a listener, a viewer, Sue-Ann, who reached out to me, and a couple of you have. And so, she was the one that just kind of made me like, okay, let's get this set up, because I know Mark Thompson's having some issues over with his monetization on YouTube. I'm not. The super chat is live. You guys have been donating money during the show, just throwing some bucks, super stickers, super comments, and we really, really appreciate it. You guys have been so generous each and every show. So that's a great way of donating to the show. But Sue-Ann was like, you need to get a PayPal, because I know Mark's been using it, so people are getting used to it. We wanted to keep it easy. Well, we now do have the PayPal. If you want to send it that way, you can become a Patreon subscriber, which is awesome. But if you want to send PayPal donations, send it to the show's email. And that is the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. You see it right there, right at the bottom of your screen. So if you like PayPal better, if it's just easy for you, some people like Venmo, some people like Zelle. I mean, there's Cash App, PayPal. A lot of people have PayPal. So there you go. And of course, a great way of supporting the show is to become a monthly Patreon subscriber. Oh, my voice keeps up. Just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com and you can become a monthly Patreon subscriber. And so many of you have. I have some ideas in the works for the holidays. Another reminder, and I'll remind you again tomorrow. The show is off on Friday and on Monday for the holidays. I have family coming in town and we all need some time off. So, but I do have some videos that I may be posting on YouTube Shorts. So keep it tuned there. And then something special. Hopefully I can get it done for our Patreon subscribers, and I'm sure I can. So keep it tuned there and check your emails for all of that, because you guys get early access to other stuff as well, like the merchandise that you see behind me. Getting tons of ideas. You guys have some ideas. Hoodies. I know. I hear you. I'm going to get a hoodie. I got another suggestion from one of our viewers and friend, Liana, who wanted the big logo, that logo shirt on the women's cut t-shirt. So I'm going to try to work that out, get that on the website. That's an easy peasy thing to do. And I should have thought about it ahead of time. But yeah, so you can get merchandise on our website, the Nikki Medoro Shop.com. That's the direct link to it. You can also get all of that information on our website as well. And it just makes it really easy to support the show. And, you can wear it and you can bring it. I know somebody was at the farmer's market and had purchased the tote bag, which is really cute. So as you guys get all of the merchandise, and I know a lot of it should be arriving soon, especially for our Patreon subscribers, please send me a link either through email or through my social media feeds, and I'll share it on the show, because I love showing it off. And it's just a great way of supporting the show. Okay. Joining us this afternoon, is Cal Matters, Emily Hoven. And Emily, before we start, I want you to send me your what address, so I can send you some merchandise. I'd love to send you a cup or a bag or a shirt. You tell me, because I appreciate you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, that's so sweet, Nikki. I mean, your show is incredible. I love that you have merch. That's awesome. And it's beautiful.
Okay, good. So yeah, just send me your address and I'll send that along. And I want you to have a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. But there are a lot of people right now that are having a tough holiday. You did an article for Cal Matters looking at the homeless in California in comparison to the rest of the nation. And I don't know why the numbers surprise me, but it's pretty large. I mean, California has the largest homeless population in the entire country, correct?
Yes. And the numbers were shocking for me as well, because I think in California, sometimes we get kind of, used to the situation, and it kind of numbs us to the scale of it. But when you look at how California is doing on homelessness compared to the rest of the country, there was a new federal report that came out from the U.S. Housing and Community Development Department, and they found that California accounts for 30% of the nation's homeless population in 2022, and 50% of its unsheltered population. So people that are, not living in shelters, but are maybe living in their cars or in parks or on the street in tents. And those numbers were staggering. But I think the one that really hit me for some reason was the fact that 44 out of every 10,000 people in the state are homeless. That is that just is like shocking to me, because I think when you put it that way, it's like 1 out of every 220 or so people. And it just really goes to show you how widespread this crisis is here in California.
Is there any sort of data on why? And I know that people say drugs, Democrats, they'll say a myriad of things, but did this look or kind of expose what makes California kind of the destination for a lot of the nation's homeless?
It didn't go into that so much, but it's interesting because there was an article that came out just this past week in the Atlantic that was really interesting, and it basically said, why are blue states suffering so much from homelessness compared to red states? Because actually, this federal report found that California had the largest increase in the number of homeless people from 2007 to 2022 of any other state in the country, whereas Texas actually had, not Texas, excuse me, Florida had the largest decrease. And so, why is there this discrepancy? And the Atlantic article basically made the argument that, blue states, for a variety of reasons, have added so many regulations and rules surrounding housing construction that it's basically very difficult to build houses. Developers don't want to invest, whereas in red states, it's frequently very different, and they take a different approach where it's a lot easier to do that. And so because of that, if you have mental health struggles, if you have access to drugs, and then on top of that, it's basically impossible to afford a house unless you have a certain level of income, that's only going to exacerbate the problem.
And of course, and I'm seeing in our live chat, there is this also other argument that we also have all of these social programs that help the homeless. Now, whether they're working or not is another argument. Is there kind of this, maybe I would even say, a political message of, on one hand, states like California, very difficult to build housing. On the other hand, what we love to do is create all these social safety net programs to help all of those people, to hopefully get them either into housing or to get them food. I don't know if the Atlantic article touched on that, but what's happening in these other states? Are they just abandoning homeless, or do they like warm weather and the ocean and things like that?
Yeah. And I think if you are going to be homeless, probably you can access more services here in California than you would be able to in other states. I think it's very interesting because California has only increased its homeless spending over the past couple of decades. We're talking tens of billions of dollars. And despite that, we had a 23% increase in homelessness over the past, decade and a half. And so the weird thing is, California is making progress. San Diego is kind of an interesting example because they've made a lot of inroads on homelessness, but they just had a report come out that for every 600 people they housed, 1,000 more became homeless. And so it's, yes, they are building shelters. They are providing people with services, connecting them to mental health care and to social workers and things like that. And you're helping one population, and then at the same time, this whole other group of people is, for whatever reason, is falling into homelessness. And so it's almost like one step forward, two steps back. And I feel like that generally is actually a pretty accurate description of the state's homelessness situation in the past couple of years. It would be false to say that there hasn't been progress. But at the same time, the tide of the problem has been larger than that. And so you have the impression, and the reality is that things are just getting worse.
Yeah, and I was reading about San Diego also, and what really stuck out to me, what they do there is they've kind of made it that there's fewer agencies that have to deal with a homeless person in order to get them housing, versus a place like, let's say, San Francisco, where we hear story after story of people getting lost in this system of so many nonprofits and so many different agencies. Is the bureaucracy also getting in the way?
I think definitely. And San Francisco is an interesting case. I mean, there was another recent report about, because the federal government basically had all of these emergency housing vouchers that it had during the beginning of the pandemic to ensure that people would be able to stay in their homes and afford rent, and not be evicted, not be pushed out onto the street with all the viruses spreading. And in San Francisco, in California as a whole, less than 50% of those vouchers have actually been used more than a year and a half after they were sent
Ridiculous.
out. And, places like San Diego have had more success in actually using those vouchers because they have streamlined the number of agencies and departments that are involved in using them. In San Francisco, it's crazy because you can have one agency refer a person to a house or to an apartment, but then another agency has to come in and actually handle the steps after that. And so you have all of these bureaucratic minefields, and people just keep falling through the cracks.
I mean, it seems that's where also the money waste is happening, right? You're throwing all of this money at all these different agencies, and nothing. I mean, it's not nothing, like you said. It's not as if progress hasn't been happening. But I kind of sided with Gavin Newsom, the governor, when he was like, "Nope, I'm not giving you guys money." He did backtrack, I think, because people were freaking out about it, and kind of the bar was set at a certain level. But if you're not seeing progress, or if it's 1%, 10%, that is not enough for the amount of money that we're spending. And then you have something like the care court that we've talked about before, and then LA Mayor Karen Bass and her plan, which doesn't sound too different than what we did during COVID.
No, you're right. I mean, her plan is essentially a replica of the governor's Project Room Key and Home Key, which during the pandemic, expedited the approval of turning these hotel and motel rooms into basically housing units for homeless people, getting them off the street, connecting them to services. And so Mayor Karen Bass, who is now the new mayor of Los Angeles, she's declared a homelessness state of emergency, which has been accepted and approved by both the LA City Council and endorsed by the LA County Board of Supervisors, which is important because the county is the one that provides all of the mental health care and all of those other social services, whereas the city, it's more of just the homelessness and the housing.
I see.
And so, yeah, basically her plan is to try to get 17,000 people off the street in 1 year and into these hotel and motel rooms. And I believe the population of homeless in LA City is about 40,000 people. And so, that would be a measurable dent. But again, you have to ensure that there's not 20,000 that are falling into homelessness while you're housing those 17,000 people. And so, yeah, I think that's just really that's the challenge for California, is figuring out why are more people becoming homeless. Is it because of the drugs and inadequate mental health care? Is it because of the lack of housing? Is it because, there are too many services that don't, motivate people to try to get back on their feet? Is it a combination of all of those things?
Sure. Yeah.
It's a mess. It's a mess.
I mean, yeah, and if we don't get the housing costs under control and the housing built fast enough, then we're never going to get ahead of it. I mean, there's just people. This is a desirable place to live. It always will be. We can't change our location. Despite climate change, our weather is gorgeous, and I don't see a solution. Now, Karen Bass did say something interesting, and you mentioned the county and the city working together, but this government approach, is there any sort of hint that the federal government may step in and look at the state of California with this large homeless population and, I don't know, declare a state of emergency to get better funding? Or it seems out of control and only getting worse.
Totally. Well, President Biden did unveil this kind of vague roadmap that he said he wants to slash homelessness nationwide 25% by 2025. Which seems like a very ambitious target, considering that's just 2 years away, essentially.
I know, I'm looking at the clock. I'm like, what year are we in? Okay.
Yeah, and to cut it, and actually the federal report found that homelessness nationally grew only by 0.3%, but still in 2022. So if you're going to cut it by a quarter, that's very aggressive. But there's a lot of details that haven't really been hammered out yet. But his administration did say that they do intend to, starting in January, unveil the names of certain locations where they plan to really zero in and focus on getting these encampments cleaned up. we don't know what they are yet, but I would have to imagine that some of them are in California. I mean, it's so visible. Like I said, 50% of the unsheltered population is here. So if you really want to make a dent in the problem, you're going to have to come to California. Karen Bass referred to LA as the epicenter of the nation's homelessness crisis. And so I would imagine that LA and most likely San Francisco, possibly Sacramento, are also going to be on the federal government's list, just because they're home to a very sizable amount of the nation's homeless people.
Absolutely. And so that could be a good thing, but we know how people set goals, Emily, and then all of a sudden they get pushed back because it's a hard problem. Emily Hoven with Cal Matters for a short stint. When do you start at the San Francisco Chronicle?
I start there on the 23rd. Okay. So my
of this
January.
Month?
Sorry, of January.
Like
that was very unclear. Yeah, I keep thinking it's already January. So my last day at Cal Matters is January 5th, which is very bittersweet. But then I'll have 2 weeks off, and then starting at the Chronicle on the 23rd. So super excited to keep covering state policy and politics, but from a different angle. Yep. And hopefully we'll be able to do a little dabbling in some San Francisco issues as well.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
San Francisco's full of issues, Emily. You know that. So I'm sure you'll be dabbling a lot. All right, Emily Hoven with Cal Matters, soon to be the San Francisco Chronicle. Merry Christmas, happy holidays, happy New Year, and we're gonna get you on real soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Nikki.
All right,
happy New Year holidays to you.
You too. Bye-bye. Yeah, so she's awesome. Let's welcome Kim McAllister to the show. And yeah, Kim, we were talking about 30% of the nation's homeless is here, and we have 50% of the country's unsheltered people. 50% of the country's unsheltered people live here in California.
Did she say why? I mean, obviously weather, right? It's easier to be homeless in California than it is in snowy New York or wherever.
Well, it's a myriad of problem. It's the fact that while we have all these social safety programs, we also make it really hard to build housing. We need to get that together. If we don't have enough housing, we are constantly going to have all of these issues with people not having a place to live. Because if the price of housing keeps going up, maybe 10 years ago you made enough to afford rent or buy a home. But 10 years later, you don't, and your wages didn't go up. I keep saying this over and over. It is basic math, and not everybody can just pick up and leave. People have kids. They have jobs that they don't want to give up. So, but that's frightening. I do want to play you a little clip just because I pulled it. But this is what Karen Bass was saying, again, on what they plan to do, working with both the county and the city.
Novel approach. We do have hotels and motels that learned from that experience and now are willing to do master leasing. As a matter of fact, we have calls from a number of people who want to offer either apartment buildings, hotels, or motels, and we need to take advantage of that.
Now, I agree with her, but let's see a show of hands. How many people want their neighborhood motel, hotel, apartment building turned into housing for people that don't have a home? Go ahead. I will. I mean, I don't have an apartment. I know all you to call me out. I don't live in a neighborhood with an apartment complex. I live in a single family home neighborhood. But this is what needs to happen. We need to stop thinking that homeless equals criminal. It's not always these are our neighbors. These are people in our community. And if we don't change that mentality, we will never solve this problem.
So, and I may have mentioned this to you before, but there was a series of homeless people dying in the town where I live, Petaluma.
Oh my gosh.
It was like every other month there was a homeless person that had been reported dead. And so I was reporting on the story and I was talking to Petaluma police about it. And I asked this officer, why are so many homeless people dying? Is it like a serial killer? What's going on?
Right.
But all the cause of deaths were listed as like exposure or
it's cold outside, right?
Whatever it was. And he said, we have this really nice state-of-the-art homeless facility that also provides homeless services and support and outreach. And he said, it's great to have those services for people, but when you build a center like that,
right,
more homeless people will come
because that's where the center is.
Services.
Yes,
right.
Of course.
So he said, what you have is then most of the homeless people in Sonoma County flocking to this particular city because that's where the services are, that's where you can get the most help. And so it doesn't necessarily follow that it's like you increase the homeless population and then you increase the number of deaths. So it wasn't anything
Yeah.
nefarious or sinister, but I bring it up to say that when you increase services like that, like what she's talking about doing, and maybe that's why California has more homeless people, why we have, what is it, 30%?
30%
Yeah.
of the nation's homeless and 50% of I just lost the page of it.
Perhaps they know that if they come to California, there's more able to get help here. I don't know what
Mhm.
it's like to be homeless in Idaho or Texas or
Right. And
wherever.
Florida's made the biggest drop. So yeah, unsheltered people, we have half. That means
Yeah.
people that live on the streets, cars, or in parks. And 30% of the country's homeless population in 2022, despite less than 12% of the total population of the country. So
And
it's
so
just
if we're
ridiculous.
attracting them here because of our policies, I guess the argument is that a good thing or a bad thing? Because more people are being helped, but then it looks bad for California as if somehow, we have more homeless people and we're not doing a good job. You know what
Right.
I mean? Yeah.
Exactly. Well, I mean, if we are giving a social safety net to people, good. If we're
Yeah.
making it difficult to build housing that they can afford, bad. So we need to get that together. The NIMBYism is destroying this country or destroying the state. It is this idea of I don't want anything to change because I like it the way it is. That is hurting us as a community. I'm sorry. It sucks in some cases, but it's the truth. And so you're going to deal with the homeless whether you like it or not, to take a phrase from good old Gavin Newsom. Yeah. And Celeste, I love that. Few get through life without the help from others, and some need more help than others. Absolutely. And on that note, I want to play you this video. So the president and first lady were being interviewed by Drew Barrymore, who I will have to say, I don't watch her show because it's in the middle. I don't know if it's in the morning or the afternoon, whatever. I don't watch it. I don't watch a lot of daytime television. And so, but she's like, seen some clips and she's really funny. I think she's kind of finding her own on her show. So just a little props to good old Drew Barrymore. But so the president is talking to her, and it kind of has to do with what we're talking about helping people and homeless and the assumptions. And that's the most important thing. The assumptions that people make about other people that they see on the street. And so he shared this story of when he was younger, walking with his dad. And I wanted to play it with you because you can tell this is, again, the difference between someone who has a friggin' heart and some other politicians who shall not be named. So here he is.
I'll tell you a real quick story. One of the things my dad, when he was up in Philadelphia, he was in his late 70s. He was still working full time. I went up to see him. I was U.S. Senator.
Oh, hold on. I wanted to get rid of this ad. Hold on. There we go.
And I had to be in Philly, and we were going to go to a restaurant to lunch. And I had two of my staff with me. We were heading to lunch who knew my dad well. And a guy walked across the street and said, "Hey, buddy, can you spare a dime?" In effect, asked for help. And I don't know why I said it, because I had a friend who used to joke. And I said, "I'm working this side of the street." My father stopped dead. The only thing, my father never once raised his hand to any of us, but the devastating thing he said to me twice in my life: "You disappoint me." And he turned around, and my dad didn't have any money, took out his wallet. He had $40 cash in it, and he hands it to the guy. And I said, "Dad, I'm sorry." He said, "I can't believe it. Can't believe what you did. I can't believe it." I said, "But Dad, he's going to go by." And he looked at me, he said, "Do you think he'd be doing, if he had any other choice, he'd be doing something like that?" That was my dad. And that's the only time in my whole life I did that. I don't know why I did it.
Well, maybe you need those moments to just remind you to keep being that empathic person.
I don't know why that gets me choked up every time I watch it. It just, not that I'm feeling for President Biden, but this one, just obviously that interaction. Two, he's in his 80s, and you can tell that his dad's disappointment still stayed with him. And I think all of us, as we grow up, and especially as adults who have children, you remember those moments with your kids or when you were a kid with your parents. On that note, next hour, we're going to have I'm going to play you, and it's a little long, but it's so worth listening to. Former First Lady Michelle Obama was being interviewed on Conan O'Brien's podcast, and she was talking about kids coming to their parents with anxiety. And basically, She wants kids to feel anxiety. And it's just such an interesting conversation. So I want to save it for the next hour because she makes such a point. And I'll share a story next hour of, not with too many details because my daughter would kill me, but just that emotion. And I'm sure you feel like him as well as a parent and a mom, wanting to fix everything and having to let it go. And the worry that if you let it go, is my kid going to do something terrible? All of these emotions that you feel as a loving parent, but also, are we denying our children the growth that they need to have when they face situations? So that's coming up in the next hour.
Can I share something with you?
Please.
I got this message from another mom
Oh,
in my
okay.
third grader's classroom today.
Okay.
Says, "Hi, Kim. I wanted to check in with you to see if Jacob told you about the incident with the fifth grader yesterday." I had
Now
heard
Jacob
nothing.
is your feisty one, right?
He's 8.
Uh-huh.
He's just kind of lives with his head in the clouds,
He's
you know?
he's fun. Okay, go ahead.
He's a sweetheart. He's
He's
so
the one that
kind.
sings the song at the end of the show
Right.
every day.
Apparently, she said, a fifth grader, and Jacob's in third grade, tied, but he's big for his age, so he looks
Okay.
like a fifth grader.
Okay.
Apparently, a fifth grader tied his sweater sleeves together and he couldn't get them untied. Her
Aw.
daughter and other kids tried to help him. Eventually, he was able to wriggle out his way out of the sweater. I wanted to tell you because I worried that maybe he didn't tell a teacher and it didn't get dealt with. So that's nice that she took the time to tell me that. But I'm picturing in my head,
My
sweet
poor
Jacob,
kid. I
my poor
know.
kid, who some older kid ties his sweater together and he's like, like a straight jacket and he can't get out of it. Other kids trying to help him, but he can't. So then he's got to take his shirt off at school. It's just so, it
Did you talk
smacks
to him
of
about it?
being bullied. No, I just got the message a couple of hours ago.
Oh, no. Okay. So you're
So
going to
like,
talk to him about it.
I'll talk to him, but I wonder, like, do I call, it's one of those things you were just talking about, which is why I mentioned it is, when do you intervene? In this case, do I call the principal? These are things that are going through my head.
Yeah.
I probably should call the principal or maybe reach out to his teacher to let them know so they can keep more of an eye on it. Because where were the
Interesting.
grown-ups when this was
Yeah.
happening, right? So it's
Right.
just one of those things where your heart goes, ugh. On
Yeah.
one hand, you want them to be able to have the tools to deal with it themselves. But on
Yes.
the other hand, you just want to sweep in and make sure it never happens again. So
Yeah, I feel
I can't.
like, it just again, and I would have to sit with it for a while to know what I would do if it was my son. But
Yeah.
I've had instances when my son was in elementary school. There was this one time, real quickly, that I was on the reverse side of it. Something had happened, and I found out that some of the boys had kind of paid keep away with an orange that was part of this other student's lunch. And my son was part of it and kind of like kicked it away towards the fence. And I know these kids from little because I volunteer at the school. And so when I found out who the student was that had their orange, like being kept from them, I was so disappointed. Not that it mattered, but I'm like, we know this kid. Like, how can
Right.
you do that? And I made my son, and he was, I guess he must have been in second or third grade. Okay. So really young. And I made him and I'm like, go. And I mean, I stood back because we'd already had the conversation. I was like, go. And he went up and he said, I'm really sorry that I did that. I know that in a way I was kind of forcing him to own up, but I think that there are parents out there that on one hand totally defend their kid no matter what. But if it's their kid that doesn't need defending, that needs a talking to,
Right.
are they doing that as well? Because
Wouldn't you
they
wanna
need
know?
both.
Like, I've always been the mom that if he
Yeah, but
does
it's
something,
hard.
I wanna
It's
know because how
hard.
else do you get out in front of it, right?
I
Like,
mean,
how else do you
because
teach them?
you don't want your parent. I've learned this now that I have and this now that we have 13-year-old girls.
Yeah.
Do not get involved, right? It's like, don't, because then that mom's going to tell their daughter or son, and then everyone's going to talk about how you got involved. So then it becomes this, yes, on one hand, I'm sending a message to that kid's parents, but what am I sending my kid back to at school? And all of these things have to be balanced.
Yep.
And talk about anxiety for the kids, then it becomes an anxiety for the parents. And so, again, I think Michelle Obama put it so perfectly. And she had this interaction with one of their daughters that I think all of us can find ourselves having these conversations at home. And her response to her daughter was just perfect. And, she included the story in her book. Obviously, that's why she was on with Conan O'Brien. And it's tough being a parent, knowing what to do, knowing what not to do is just as important. Okay, we're going to do Kim's news in just a moment. When we come back, I want to get into the GOP is imploding. Now, I'm not quite sure how I feel about it because on one hand, they've done this to themselves. Okay. They've done this to themselves. So I have no sympathy for them. On the other hand, we need to get things done. So that omnibus bill has been supported by Mitch McConnell. He's gone out in front of it and it's pissing off people like Kevin McCarthy and Rand Paul. It pissed Rand Paul off so much. He wrote, and I'm not playing you the whole damn thing, but I'll play you a bit. 'Twas the night before Christmas kind of lyric about the whole entire thing. So I'll play some of that for you. They're absolutely ridiculous. But I mean, are you concerned that the GOP is imploding? Because on one hand, yes, they've done it to themselves. On the other, we have some huge problems that we need to solve in this country. There's another list out and I'm going to say of Republicans claiming words we can no longer say. Kennedy, do you remember Kennedy, Kim? She was on MTV. She was like a VJ early. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, she was like a conservative. I think she's on Fox now. So she had a panel. I'll play you a bit of the panel of all these words we're not allowed to say. And you guys tell me if you would ever stop using any of these words, because this is a topic that makes its way back to me. It's kind of like you can't tell people Merry Christmas. I can tell anybody I want Merry Christmas. And if they don't celebrate it, they can say Happy Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, holidays, whatever they want to me. And I've never been reprimanded. This is a made up story by the GOP, but there's some new words they want to add to their list. And you know what? Maybe before the end of this hour, we'll throw in a dominatrix at a city council meeting. How about that?
Oh.
I mean, that sounds good, right? I mean, that's
beautiful.
something to look forward to. But first, of course, we do need to get some news with Kim.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888 Tax Deal. A story we have been following this morning at the library at the campus of San Jose State University remains evacuated right now because of reports of a woman who may be armed with some type of weapon. The library closed abruptly until further notice. San Jose Public Library says that they have shut it down. It is on campus on East San Fernando Street. The Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library closed down right now. No students are on campus because it was closed for the holidays. So they did evacuate the library. They're still investigating at this point.
It's a huge library too. So if they have to, like do kind of like a floor by floor, and it's a library, I would imagine there's nooks and crannies and stuff. But
sure,
geez,
so they have not made contact with any suspect or anything like that. But it's a story we're following, and so I wanted to kind of keep you abreast on what's happening with that. Ukrainian President Zelensky thanking President Biden and the American people for continuing to support and provide support for Ukraine. Zelensky met with President Biden in the Oval Office this afternoon, and while doing so, he presented Biden with a military award on behalf of the Ukrainian captain in a battlefield. The IRS is being accused of being asleep at the wheel in handling former President Donald Trump's tax returns. That accusation leveled by the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, Oregon Democrat Ron Wyden, insisting the decades-old presidential audit program is broken. More than a dozen states' attorneys general are warning that there will be an enormous crisis if Title 42 is allowed to end. Their warning came during a part of the last-minute argument that asked the U.S. Supreme Court to keep up the Trump-era immigration policy in place. Title 42 was originally set to end today, but the Supreme Court issued a stay order on that for Monday. Tesla is reportedly planning to implement a hiring freeze and lay off workers in response to stock losses over the last 8 months. According to Electrek, the company has stopped hiring new employees. They're warning teams to prepare for layoffs during the first quarter of next year. Tesla stock has dropped almost 60% since the Texas Gigafactory opened in April, and CEO Elon Musk has sold billions of dollars in shares this year. California's constitutional amendment protecting reproductive freedom goes into effect today. Of course, the amendment approved by voters in November, Governor Gavin Newsom saying Californians stood up for these rights. Geologists here in Northern California are reporting a very small earthquake here in the Bay Area. It happened this morning about 8:30 a.m., centered near Oakland. It was a 3.1, actually centered a mile northeast of San Leandro. The moderate shaking, of course, coming a day after a big earthquake, shook the north part of our state. 2 deaths, a dozen people injured after the 6.4 shaker in Humboldt County. No injuries or damage after that 3.1 today in the East Bay. And here's a story for you, Nikki, because I know you often think about better ways to power cars, right?
Okay. Yes, I do. So it keeps me up at night,
Porsche.
actually. Thank you.
You say Porsche or Porsche? Porsche
I say
is
Porsche.
testing fuel created out of air and wind. Here's the story.
Ooh.
So Fox News, we'll give them some credit on this one.
Okay.
They're reporting highly innovative fuels developed the essentially net zero fuel at a wind-powered plant in Chile. And now several sport car companies are actually looking into using it. A Porsche spokeswoman says, her spokesperson, could be either gender, says they recently filled up a 911, a Porsche 911
Okay.
with the fuel. They believe it can be used in almost any car that runs on gas. It currently costs $45 a gallon, but the cost will be brought down to $8 by 2026, according to Motor Trend. So this is a fuel created from air and wind.
Okay. So air is wind. Wind and air, I guess. I mean, so I'm so confused on the science behind this. Does that mean that I can collect air as I drive?
I don't know how it works. It must be.
I'm just saying, like, I want a car that runs itself. Can we work on that? Can we work that as I drive, the act of driving creates whatever to make it continue to run? I want a self-propelling forever vehicle. That is my dream. Universe, make it happen. There you go.
Well, don't you think that would, we have to look at the science. Yeah, Porsche is replacing gasoline with air and water. But doesn't that make sense that as you would drive, the air would kind of...
Yes.
Yeah,
just like when your tires move, can't we capture that energy? And I know with hybrids, it kind of does that or whatever to charge the batteries, but we need to do more of that. Make it better. I mean, we have these microprocessors. We need to shrink all that stuff and make it happen.
They say it's a new synthetic fuel created out of thin air and water.
That's a headline, though.
It's made in Chile near the tip of South America, where the wind blows about an average of 270 days per year. It combines carbon captured from the atmosphere with hydrogen sourced from the water to create methane, which is converted into a fuel that then works the same as gasoline. It's apparently they say it requires no modifications. Any gas-powered car could use it right now.
That's awesome.
And so, they're going to ramp up the this net zero fuel, and Porsche is going to be the first to use it in special projects. And again, it's so currently
that's very encouraging
to make, but they're going to have it lowered to $8 a gallon by 2026. So the question is, if you had access to this fuel that doesn't hurt the environment
at all,
but costs $8 a gallon,
we were close though, right?
Roll up to the gas station and you got a choice: $3.99 for the gas or $8 for the air, wind, water fuel. What do you do?
They have to give us a tax break on it. There has to be some sort of payoff for people to do the right thing, similar to what we got riding in the carpool lane when we got the hybrids. I know it sounds terrible, right? Protecting the environment's not enough. Give people something. Give them a sticker. You're only going to use this, or you're going to modify your gas tank that it only fits that hose, so they can only use that. And then on the back end, you get something. You get to ride in all these stupid toll roads for free. That would be awesome, right?
That would be amazing. Of all stickers, right? I don't know.
There you go. That's awesome.
It's interesting though. We'll see how it goes and whether people will be willing to pay more for that.
Well, the fact that they don't have to modify it reminds me of, remember when there was a big move towards like grease, like French fry grease, and you don't have to do like a little thing.
You had to totally revamp your.
But
whole
it wasn't that big of a deal. It wasn't like you had to buy a whole new car. So if we're getting a little bit better at just okay, you could just stick the different nozzle in. I mean, that is progress. So I applaud Porsche. Good job.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz for more than 30 years. Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, call Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL or moskowitzllp.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
The Nikki Medoro Show is correct. Click the thumbs up right now. I want to give some shout outs because you guys have been very generous just to start off the show, which is amazing. Yeah. Eric started us off with a $5 super sticker. I love you. Kung Fu Femmes with a happy holidays, Nikki and Kim. Love you, ladies. $10. Mwah. Jim Slayton, $10 super sticker. Thank you, Jim. And then $20 from CR. Mark has Mark merch. You should have Nikki next. Oh, come on.
That's cute. Nikki
I'm loving that. Oh, yeah, we're going to do it. That's it.
That is creative and well done, CR.
Would you like to buy some Nikki Knacks? You can. Now I got to change the whole banner for it, though. So you can buy merchandise Nikki Knacks at theNikkiMedoroShop.com. I would be remiss, Kim, if I did not mention Sue-Ann. You were not on yet, but Sue-Ann emailed me. And she was like, I know that's some sort of clerical thing happening with Mark. And so he has the PayPal going. It's like, can you get PayPal? Because I like to use PayPal and all these sorts of things. I was like, okay, the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com, which is our email. That's where you could do now PayPal donations. So
okay.
It wasn't
Venmo
actually
too, because I'm a Venmoer.
You know, Kim, let's just try and keep it easy. Maybe I'll try to get Venmo. It's I got. No, it's okay. I'm just kidding.
I want it all. You know,
you want it all. I want to make it as easy as possible for you. I thought the Patreon, which is what we really, really love. But thank you to Sue-Ann. She gave us $100 donation. So she really started off today with a $100 donation. Thank you. She wishes all a happy holidays. But if you want to use PayPal, the email is the Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com. And if you,
the thing about PayPal is, you know, everybody has to make money, right? So when these services take a cut and a percentage of whatever you're sending, but PayPal takes the least amount out.
Oh, I did not know that. Okay, so there we go. That's an even feather in the cap for PayPal. And of course, if you want to be a Patreon subscriber, please do. I have some shorts that will be on YouTube over the holidays because we're off Friday and Monday. But I also have something in the works for Patreon subscribers. So if you want that, you need to be a member and you just go to the NikkiMedoroShow.com. Our Patreon link is right there. And we love, love, love you all. Okay. You know who I don't love? The GOP. Okay, so they drive me crazy. They are obstructionists. They need to keep the government going. Okay, and they're imploding. So basically, there's a splinter of people that don't want to give this administration, who has obviously the White House, the House and Senate right now, any sort of wins. Right? Don't do anything. Don't do anything good. God forbid we do anything good that could benefit or make the other political party look good. And so they were fighting this omnibus bill. But McConnell, of all people, McConnell is like, you know what? Screw you guys. So here is Mitch McConnell, who, you know, it's unfortunate to put his picture up, but there he is. And this is what he had to say about the omnibus bill.
This omnibus bill that'll be on the floor provides a real dollar increase for the defense baseline and a real dollar cut for the non-defense baseline if you exclude veterans. That is absolutely critical in breaking the pattern we've had in the past when we've ended up in one of these situations where every time Republicans tried to get an increase in defense, we would in effect have to pay a ransom to the Democrats on the domestic side, wholly aside from the needs of the country. So let's step back and say, what are the real needs of the country right now? They're in the defense part of our expenditures, making sure the Defense Department can deal with the major threats coming from Russia and China, providing assistance for the Ukrainians, to defeat the Russians. That's the number one priority for the United States right now, according to most Republicans. That's sort of how we see the challenges confronting the country at the moment. So, admittedly, I'm pretty proud of the fact that with a Democratic president, a Democratic House, and a Democratic Senate, we were able to achieve, through this omnibus spending bill, essentially all of our priorities.
Oh, well, all of what he's trying to say is all of their goals and all of the things that they wanted to get done in this country. But this is the GOP right now. They're just imploding because Kevin McCarthy, who really wants to be speaker, of course, he was reacting to Chip Roy of Texas's tweet, who said, House GOP to Senate GOP, we are obliged to inform you that if any omnibus passes in the remaining days of this Congress, we will oppose and whip opposition to any legislative priority of those senators who vote for this bill, including the leader. Hashtag Stand Up for America. And then McCarthy writes, agreed, except no need to whip. When I'm speaker, their bills will be dead on arrival in the House if this nearly $2 trillion monstrosity is allowed to move forward over our objections and the will of the American people. Damn. Like, they're killing bills they've never read. That's how much they put their party over their country. That's how much they do it. They're not even hiding it. They're not even hiding it. It's absolutely ridiculous.
What do we expect? I mean, what did we see last time? Right?
Right.
We saw lies. We saw hypocrisy. We saw, the whole Supreme Court justice flap, where there's one set of rules for Democrats, but when the tables are turned,
oh yeah,
it's a gimme. We're going to take you for everything we can get you for.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we know what we're in for when they're in power, and that is no compromising, no working together, no doing anything on behalf of the country. It's our way or the highway.
Yeah, and we need to keep the government funded, okay? So Rand Paul, who is another person, I'm sorry, I just can't stand to look at him, but there he is. This is him rewriting 'Twas the Night Before Christmas. I'm only going to play a little bit of it, but he's obviously unhappy with this omnibus bill.
When what to my wondering eyes should appear but a 4,000-page omni with endless debt year after year. With a little old driver, so lively and quick, I knew in a moment it must be St. Nick. More rapid than eagles his coursers they came, and he whistled and shouted and called them by name. Now McConnell, now Schumer, now Pelosi and Vixen, on Biden, on stupid, on dumber and Blitzen, to debt, to bankruptcy, to free money for all. Now dash away, more cash for all.
Shut up, Rand. I mean, he's just a blowhard. It's keeping the government funding, the defense. I mean, it's just a win. That's what they're upset at. So now, again, to go with my whole theory that they're imploding, listen to this exchange. So this is CNN's Manu Raju, who is interviewing, again, a Republican senator. This is Senator Kevin Cramer. Okay. Now listen to this. Listen to what he is saying to all the Rand Pauls and Kevin McCarthy's out there as they head to supposed power in the House.
Kevin's in a tough spot, but I don't think it's the type of rhetoric that further endears the public to the process or to the institution of Congress. In fact, I think it probably, statements like that and statements coming from House Republicans is the very reason that some Senate Republicans feel they probably should spare them from the burden of having to govern.
Probably should spare them from the burden of having to govern. That's the word from Kevin Cramer, who, by the way, opposes this omnibus spending bill. But a lot of Republican senators believe it is better to just clear the decks for the incoming Republican majority in the House, even though they want to punt this into next year when they'll have a stronger hand to negotiate spending. But just a disagreement over tactics, over policy, as Republicans and Democrats head to the end of this Congress. This bill could pass the Senate today and over to the House as early as tomorrow.
So, yeah, I don't know what's going to happen there, but the GOP is just ridiculous right now. And I'm wondering, who is going to be the true leader of the GOP? Obviously 2024 notwithstanding. Is it going to be a Mitch McConnell? Is it going to be a Kevin McCarthy? Lori writing in. Sorry, McCarthy's doing to Mitch what Mitch did. It's going to be fun to watch. That's all I know. But we do need to also get things passed. We need to figure out how to run this country, and we have to stop being distracted by the squirrels. Remember, Obama talked about that when he was campaigning for the Democrats. We have to stop being, the distracted squirrel, like, oh, squirrel, of all these stupid nonsense talking points. And on that note, I have to talk about the latest words that apparently Americans are. Oh, and we can't even. I'm not supposed to say that. But apparently Americans, a word you're not supposed to say anymore.
Why?
Are not supposed to say. Yeah. So I'm going to play you Kennedy. Now, Kennedy, you may remember her as an MTV VJ from back in the day. I will never not think of her as that. So every time I see her on TV, but she's on Fox Business Live. Okay. And here she is with her panel explaining the words. And there's actually someone on her panel that's making sense. Which I'm sure she wasn't very happy with. But here it is. Let's talk with Kennedy and her panel about stupid words the GOP says we can't say anymore. Oh, here's sound.
Can't hear her.
University, that's bad. Yeah, the elite California school.
Stanford.
Idiots. We beat you in football this year. Putting out a guide to get rid of, quote, harmful language that includes terms administrators consider racist, ableist, ageist, and more. The index also includes suggested replacements. According to the index, use unenlightened instead of tone deaf, and a person who has immigrated for immigrants, and use a person without housing for homeless. Is this a lexicon or a con job? Party panel is back. Charlie Hurt, Marie Harf, and Larry Sharp. So, Charlie, there are too many words here. A person who requires housing who is currently at this time unhoused. That is a lot of words to replace one word, homeless.
Yeah, and not only do they like too much verbiage, they also don't like any word that just sums it up. They don't like colorful language that just sums it up. They want you to spend a bunch of stupid words. And the idea that being an American is offensive, this is why these people hate America, because our First Amendment protects free speech. Where are the honest to God liberals left?
Yeah.
Why are the true liberals? The classic.
Okay, so I'm just going to stop it right here. I'll go back to it. But let me say the whole thing about an American. I think, and again, this was a Stanford. This is who made up this list. So it was Stanford's IT department launched its elimination of harmful language initiative that was created by the Stanford CIO Council and people of color in technology. And so Stanford IT apparently put this list together. This does not mean anything to anyone. I don't know why they tried to do this, but
because they can point it out to make the people on the left look ridiculous. That's why.
As far as American, this is how I imagine them thinking it. Like, why would American? I would say it if you're talking to someone, let's say of color, right? A minority perhaps, and be like, I'm an American, what are you? In that sort of way, like this idea of you're an American and someone who doesn't look like you or live like you or, worship like you isn't an American. That's the only way I can think of it, but it's still BS. I'm saying American every day of the week.
Liberals not fighting on behalf of I feel dumber every time I read one of these stories.
Dumber listening to you.
True, because they're robbing us of words. We can't even say Karen anymore.
Except you did, biatch. You just did. I can say Karen anytime I want to.
She has a horrible voice.
Oh God, Kennedy's awful.
Marie, I know you've asked to speak.
Now this is the one that's making sense.
Now instead of Karen, you're supposed to say no. Demanding or entitled white woman. That's racist.
I am not a Karen. And Charlie just accused people of hating America. Charlie, I love you, man, but I think that we are all so polarized today. People are rude. People are mean to each other.
Are you
I'm
wash
actually
your
okay
mouth,
with
Marie?
efforts to to make things a little nicer, to not use language that is inadvertently racist or homophobic or sexist. Those are good efforts. I also think it can go too far, right? We need to use common sense as
There you
well.
go.
Exactly right.
But,
That's the name
I'm
of the game,
with
Marie.
making sure the
I get
language
it.
I use isn't offensive, but I still will use Karen, though. I'm still
I'm
going
using
to use
Karen.
that,
I'm
so
using
you know.
brave. I'm using American. I'm not using pickle kisser. I noticed that's not on the list, and I think that should be on the list because that is offensive.
Okay, well, whatever. I don't know what that word means, but I just feel like people create, and GOP, I will say the GOP latches on to these words. I remember someone came up to me and said that you can't say brown paper bag anymore. Do you remember this?
No.
Because brown paper bag, something like that, or a bag lunch or something like that. You couldn't say it anymore because it would make people feel bad about the fact that they couldn't buy lunch or some nonsense like that. This is all BS. It is all BS. You can say any word you want to. And you know what? People can get offended if they want to. If they want to be offended because you said something, that's their right as well. It's so stupid. But I had to play it because I'm imagining holiday dinners. And I said holiday because I know not everybody celebrates Christmas. Holiday dinners where things like this will be brought up at the table. Like, did you hear? You can't even say American anymore. Yes, you can.
Did you see what Eric had to say? So the problem with American is it's exclusive of Canada, Central America, and South America. So, technically, what's the difference between being Mexican and being American? Because
You're all
Mexico
American.
is on the continent.
Yes,
Right?
there you go. Didn't specify what can.
Right.
There you go. I
But
mean, it's ridiculous.
I think when you say United States of America, when you say someone's American around the world, they know you mean from the United States and not the continent. Right. So I'm kind of torn between this because I operate in two ways. One, let's not be stupid about stuff.
Thank you.
You know what people mean.
Yes.
And sometimes
Context matters.
You go overboard. One time my husband had this job. They were ultra politically correct. And he said something about being not that he was disabled, but he said something about someone having a disability in reference to his work. And all of a sudden, a flurry of chat messages come through. You can't say disabled because that's offensive to the disabled. You say they're differently abled or whatever. And so now you're beyond me. Like now you're taking it too far. However, I also, and this is why I'm at odds, because I also subscribe to this, if you know better, do better, right? So if I know that something I'm saying is hurting someone's feelings or making someone feel bad.
Of course.
Like the word homeless, which I use that word all the time, but now apparently it's,
unhoused person.
Now we're supposed to say unhoused because the word homeless comes with a bunch of baggage and makes people feel bad. I don't want my words to cause anyone pain. So I'm kind of in this middle line between if I know better, do better and not wanting to hurt people versus over here, we're taking it way too far.
Right.
You know
And I get that. I mean, but again, I think context matters. I think also how people say something, not just in the context that they say it, but how they say it. Look at that homeless person over there versus, hey, do you have money to help the homeless? See? There's a difference, right? There's a difference in how it is said. And if you know that the way somebody is saying something is just kind of how they say it, and that they don't want to make anybody feel unseen or not worthy or not a person, like what Chelsea's writing, labeling people as homeless prevents them from being seen as anything else by the rest of us people. So, and I love that because should we say homeless person?
Well, and so today it's unhoused. Yesterday it was homeless. Tomorrow, unhoused is going to come with baggage. So then we're going to have to create a new word that means sleeping on the street. So, I mean, why don't we just worry about what how we're attaching baggage to it, change the meaning of the word or change the way we use it instead of changing the word? Because it's just going to be a new word every year that you don't like.
Yeah. I mean, I think that just like woke was taken over by the GOP, they have no comprehension of the history of that word. And they use it as and even the term that started it all, I guess, in our generation, PC, right? I mean, you said it, politically correct, as if not trying to offend people is wrong in some way. And so it was co-opted, and it was, oh, you're just too PC. What does that mean? Like, if you dissect what you're actually saying, you're telling me not to care about another person's feelings or not trying to learn or evolve. Now, can it go too far? Can it be like where you don't even know what to say? Like, if I'm about to talk about a homeless person, but then unhoused is deemed inappropriate, and then I just sit there with my mouth open like an idiot, like that human that doesn't have a roof. Like, what am I supposed to do? We
The
have to also
unsheltered, the
communicate.
unhoused, the homeless, it all means the same thing. It all
Yeah.
carries the same amount of baggage. I think,
Yeah.
it's this stupid song and dance. Let's focus on what matters.
Yes. Let's if we're talking about the homeless, the unhoused, the unsheltered, let's talk about getting them a house. How about that? Let's just talk about that. But yeah, I just thought it was really funny. So if anybody during the Christmas holiday dinners has these conversations, please let me know.
What
'Cause
were
I
the
know.
other words that we're not supposed to use?
Okay, so you're not supposed to say American. You're not supposed to say
I reject that.
Karen. You're not supposed to
Oh.
say Karen. Now,
Well,
what do you
people-
think about that one? I think that's mean,
Yeah.
although we know Karens,
Right.
like the people named Karen. Although I wonder if our Karen could be a Karen.
It
I don't
has
think
a
so.
specific meaning. Like, there's a specific thing
Yes.
behind that we didn't have before.
Yeah.
That we didn't have a word for before, except for
It was bitch. It was
whatever.
bitch. That's what it was. It
But
was that was
bitch could mean a lot of different things, right?
Well, yeah, because
just
sometimes
generally mean, but in this
Or
case, a completely
compliment.
unaware person out for themselves, racist in nature.
I don't know. Grandfather, I don't know the reasons behind this. I was trying to find. Oh, here we go. Okay. Here we go. Okay. So let's see. Is grandfather, of course, grandfather. Okay, grandfather. You're supposed to as in grandfathering somebody into something. So
What's wrong with that?
Why? Because the grandfather clause denied Black people the vote. There's a history there for that.
Okay, so that doesn't change the meaning of the word. The word
Oh.
is used in ways that is not racist.
Well, I think I'm sure if this is my grandfather is okay. If you're saying they grandfathered somebody in, or I'm a grandfathered in something, like it's a legacy thing. You should say legacy because that's actually what it is. And you know what? I actually like that one because let's just call it for what it is. And I'm not going to be offended. I'm not going to be
just
offended
because
by it.
something was grandfathered in that was racist doesn't mean everything grandfathered in is racist. So why are you killing the word just because it was used in a long ago thing that that offended you?
Well, I mean, because the grandfather clause denied Black people the vote is where that saying comes from. I think that's just what they're thinking. This one I've noticed. You tell me, and I don't know if you know a lot of people that sell real estate or talk about buying homes. I have heard this all the time lately, and I was like, oh, instead of calling something the master bedroom, you call it the primary or the main. I've been hearing that a lot lately, and I don't care. I mean, if I say master bedroom, I don't think anybody gets offended by it. But of course, because master kind of connotates slavery or whatever. Kill two birds with one stone is out.
Why is that Why is that a racist thing, or what do we have with that?
Get
two things done at once.
Do two things at once. No, that's the way to say. That's what they want you to say. Do two things at once because.
Well, why is the origin of that a problem?
Think why? Why would it be? Because it promotes animal cruelty, Kim. Because that is why.
Oh.
Which I don't want to laugh about because I get it, but I don't think anybody's killing birds because they say that saying. I mean,
it's a saying. Don't take it literally.
Oh, here's
Obviously,
one.
it means something else now. We're not really going out to kill the two birds with the one stone.
Okay.
That's a jackass thing to say.
Here's one. Instead of man hours, it has to be person hours because it reinforces male dominated language. What do you think?
I think the word man is used to describe the human race. And so when you say one step on the moon for man, right? Whatever that was. What we mean is person. Man is a word to be used as an exchange
but that's
for people. Or
yeah, but it's not though, because when you
man hours, I just like come
that
on.
One I don't that one I don't mind, but I don't say man hours a lot. And even if I did say it or someone said it to me, I don't mind. But I do actually dislike how much of our English language and sayings are very male focused. It's
That's
not
right.
a cause that I'm going to fall on my sword about, but
No.
it is true. And when you use man, especially when you're talking about leadership and things like that, that does trickle down to us, Kim. It does, because it you imagine something in your mind. The idea of a leader looks and sounds and acts a certain way, and that is this male ideal versus a woman or another type of person. So
Are we
I get it,
nitpicking?
but
Are
but
we
I'm not.
nitpicking?
Again, I don't care if people say it. I don't think that there, besides like the N word or things like that, I don't think there is any word that someone could say to me and I'm like, well, we don't say that anymore, but whatever. It's like, remember, you can't say, and you know this as a mom, you can't say Indian style, sit Indian style anymore. It's crisscross applesauce. And I'm like, I remember like sit Indian style, and then they're like, oh no, it's crisscross applesauce. And I go, okay. And now I say that. I go, okay, doesn't bother me. It's not that big of a deal. Okay, I know we're running out of time. I'll do some more of these after the news because there's a couple other ones that I found the list of explaining it. So, but
I have to change the whole newscast, get rid of a bunch of words.
How dare you, Kim? It's just gonna be like beep, beep, black lines all over everything. Look,
I'm
context,
redacting it as we speak.
yeah, context, language, how you say it all freaking matters. All right, here's Kim with the news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
It's all too much for me. I don't know if I can handle it. So we have been following this story in San Jose, where the library, the Martin Luther King Jr. Library, was evacuated due to reports of an armed suspect. And it looks like that is still the case with police there, still investigating. The library is shut down until further notice. There weren't any students on campus because of the holidays anyway, but apparently someone in the area saw a woman who may have had a weapon, possibly, in the library bathroom. So police get there, they close down the place. No contact has ever been made with the suspect. Important to note that, but a big police presence there at the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library at San Jose State. It is a public library. It's a story we're following, and so if anything changes, we'll make sure we bring you up to date on that. The House committee investigating last year's Capitol attack is set to release its final report today. The panel has interviewed more than 1,000 people and collected hundreds of thousands of documents over the last 18 months. Earlier this week, the committee recommended the Justice Department pursue 4 criminal charges against former President Donald Trump. Pardon. The Biden administration is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to deny efforts to keep Title 42 in place. This comes after Chief Justice John Roberts issued a temporary administrative stay on the Trump-era public health rule that allows border agents to expel any immigrant because of COVID concerns. As several states have filed an emergency application to keep Title 42 from ending, claiming that it would lead to a flood of migrants at the border. What are we supposed to say? You can't say immigrant anymore? I don't know. You know what I'm talking about.
I don't think that was on the list this time.
No, wasn't?
I don't think you're supposed to say illegal immigrant, right?
No, we don't say that. We say
We don't say
undocumented.
undocumented. So, but I don't think immigrant. I don't know. I'll check the list.
You say flood of migrants, or is that?
They're not water, Kim. They're people. I don't know.
Young adults are particularly vulnerable when it comes to racking up debt. That, according to a report from the Urban Institute, which found nearly 20% of 18 to 24-year-olds have debt that is in collections processes. The report blames the high cost of borrowing on those individuals not bringing in enough income to meet the debt, of course. A special grand jury investigating alleged attempts to overthrow Georgia's 2020 election results, drawing up its report as well. The panel has been interviewing those with ties to former President Trump for months. Fulton County's district attorney will decide after the report is complete whether or not to pursue any charges. And General Motors is recalling nearly 140,000 electric cars in the United States and Canada. GM says the Chevy Bolt hatchbacks made from 2017 through 2023 have a seatbelt issue that can cause a fire. In rare cases, the fire can be started by exhaust gases that come in contact with carpet fibers. That sounds like it's no bueno. So if you have one of those vehicles, that's a Chevy Bolt hatchback between 2017 and I guess the new one's 2023. That's something you definitely want to take in and get checked out. Let's talk a little bit about Vice President Harris attending Ukrainian President Zelensky's address to a joint meeting of Congress this evening. As Zelensky set to deliver remarks at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, he is in Washington, he says, to thank the American people, President Biden, and Congress for what he calls their much needed support of the Ukrainian people as Russia wages war against that country. And this report is sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. So if you need help with your taxes, you got to call Steve. It's 888-TAX-DEAL. He's also at moskowitzllp.com, and it's actually a pretty good website. So check it out if you're thinking at all that you might need a little extra for your taxes this year. It's Steve that it will help you get through that. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
All right. Thanks for joining us on the second hour of the Nikki Medoro Show. Thank you so much. We will be giving some shout outs to people donating to our live chat and super chat. We got the PayPal up. The Nikki Medoro Show at gmail.com is up. But I want to get to what we were talking about before we get to Michelle Obama's comments about words, because I found the list. I found the list of words and why and what the swap is. Okay. I love this comment though. Who was it? It's so funny because this is exactly how I'm feeling, Jim. I'm just not going to talk anymore. Like it's
yeah.
When you see things like this, I understand the emotion, but again, I don't want people to be mean to each other. I don't want you to just feel like you could, and you can. There is still freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to anybody you want to. You can also get punched in the face, right? But let's go through a couple more lists before we get to Michelle Obama. Okay, let me lower this music just a second. Okay, so one of the words, Kim, is white space.
That means kind of a blank space in between everything.
And so you're supposed to say empty space because it assigns value connotations based on color that white equals good. And it's an act which is subconsciously racialized.
It's empty. How can it be good if it's just empty space? It's
no
white
empty space. Empty space. That's what they want you to use. If you say white space, because when you're like doing a layout, white space is good because it makes it easier to see. So
I reject this one.
Okay.
I reject it.
You're rejecting white space.
I reject white space because if you were using white, there are many times where there will be old sayings like "That's mighty white of you," right?
Right.
That's
yeah,
that's a clear no. That's out,
obvious. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
But white space, the meaning of white space is just that empty space that happens to be on white paper. So it's not talking about the color white being superior. In this case, white space would be unsuperior, because it doesn't have anything on it. So it doesn't even make sense to me that they would pick that just because the word white is in it. Well, the word white doesn't necessarily refer to skin tone. It also just refers to, the color in
white space
used in every other thing.
Needed. So Harry writes in, no, white space has a specific meaning and it's not empty. Empty is empty. White space needs to be there. So that's just that you can't just swap empty space for white space. That's a good point. But when you do layouts, and I just remember my old high school yearbook kind of thing, when you do a layout, they want white space. So it is a desired thing. White space making it for the layout pleasing to the eye. Does that make sense? It's not just, there's white spaces. There's a meaning or a purpose for the white space there.
If you're going to tell me it's racist, at least give me a good reason why. I'll get on board if you can give me a good reason.
Well, okay, how about this? White sheep versus black sheep. Why is a black sheep bad?
Right. Agree.
Okay.
Yes.
I mean, in and of itself, it's just a black sheep, but black equals, I always remember that scene in Malcolm X, the Malcolm X movie where I think he's in prison when he's reading the dictionary and he's reading all of these definitions. And I think that's where this white space is coming from. I'm not going to speak. The whole damn thing is stupid.
I think they
Let's
went
see.
too far. I said something racist earlier on the Mark Thompson show.
What did you say? Are you going to, should I allow you to say it on my show?
He promised to tell me a Titanic story that he had about this movie set of the Titanic.
Oh, did you
and
say
when
you
he
got
failed to do so, I said, I feel I
gypped.
got gypped.
Yep, you can't say that.
Well,
I knew that.
word is based on gypsies,
Gypsy.
right?
Yep.
Cheating people out of things.
Yep.
And I knew it after as it came out of my mouth. I was like, oh.
Take that back.
But I understand that it was wrong, and you can make a case to me for that being wrong, and I will agree with you. But when you start going overboard with like white space, come on.
All right. Okay. No white space for her. Okay. What about this word, which is a word that I think we all use a lot. I mean, not a lot, but in news particularly, prostitute. They want you to use person who engages in sex work. I would say a sex worker then, or is that even bad? And the reason why is using person first language helps to not define people by just one of their characteristics. So I'm not a prostitute. I am a person who engages in sex work.
That's exactly what it means to say you're a prostitute.
See, Kim's not on.
Sorry that you don't like the word, but you're not going to change the meaning of the word prostitute because it means the same thing as someone who's paid for sex. So, you can't, you could try to change the word, but you're still getting paid for sex.
Yes, you are. Okay, I have one more, and this one kind of relates to what we're going to talk about next with Michelle Obama, and which kind of surprises me a little bit because they want to get rid of trigger warning, and they wanted to say instead content note, still 2 words, and the reason is the phrase. The phrase can cause stress about what's to follow. Additionally, one can never know what may or may not trigger a particular person. So content note. What do we always say?
I find trigger warning to be annoying. By the way, would you rather have me say prostitute or whore?
To me?
Yeah. Whore is offensive. Whore is like a kind of a a dirty whore, right?
Dirty whore.
Prostitute is common the correct term.
Well, I mean, I guess ask the person again. If you are talking with someone, a person who engages in sex work, what do you
a prostitute?
Yeah, a prostitute. Like I'm a prostitute. Okay, you're a prostitute. I'll call you a prostitute.
Right.
A trigger warning. Now, what do we say? We always say when we were on air, if there was something coming up, we didn't say trigger warning.
No.
We would say something that we give people kind of a warning. I think we just said warning, heads up. Kind of. This is gonna possibly.
We'll be talking about.
I don't say trigger warning ever.
In a moment, if that
I never say trigger. I don't think those words. Besides in this instant, I don't say trigger warning. That's not a word that I use.
You know what it is when you say trigger warning? It's just like it's for the ultra sensitive. Right?
Trigger warning. Well, I feel like I see it more online when people want to share a story about something. They'll put like TW, which is supposed to be trigger warning.
Yeah.
And some people are like, I wouldn't have read it if I would have known what it was about because I don't want to read stories like this.
Right.
So in that instance, I get that. Yeah. But I feel like I don't know. I mean, but okay. So let's talk about what Michelle Obama was talking about with Conan O'Brien on his podcast. Yeah. I'm going to play it for you. It's a little bit long, but I mean, I kept trying to find a place to cut it off. And then, so I'll pause it throughout so we can digest it together. But God, I feel like so many of us, no matter our age, and I'm going to say this, even if we don't have young children, even if we don't have children at all, just thinking about how we deal with situations with other people might trigger you a bit. So, so here again is Michelle Obama, and she's on the podcast. I forget the name of the podcast with Conan. It's with Conan O'Brien. He's going to start off sharing a story about his daughter. Here we go.
I tell my daughter, who's a lot like me, I tell her, and she's a freshman in college, and I tell her, she'll get very intense about, I've got this paper, I've got this test. And since she was a little girl, been talking to her about her worry brain.
Yeah.
I'll say, Nev,
her fearful mind, as I call it.
Yeah, you call it fearful mind, and I always call it to her worry brain. And I said, Nev, bad news is you got my worry brain, and that's on me.
Yeah.
Your mom doesn't have it, but I have it. You've got the worry brain. So what you need to do is you need to look at the user's manual that came with you. And that's my way of looking
Go to
at it.
section 3.
And I was explaining this to someone and they told me, oh, this is they had a name for it in psychology where you act as if your mind is something outside of you. You look at it from a distance. Yeah. And I told her, you've got to look at the manual. And the manual says the Nev Ellis Powell O'Brien is an amazing machine and it can do all these great things. Sometimes runs hot in these situations.
Right.
And when that happens,
press eject.
So I want to stop it there. Do you do this with your kids? So for me in my house, I'm guilty of this, kind of like Conan O'Brien, like trying to see things in your own kids, right? And so I will find myself spiraling about whatever issue it could be. It could be a big issue, it could be a minor issue. And I'll focus on it and I'll realize that I'm focusing on it. And so I'll stop myself and I'll tell myself, stop focusing on what you don't want or don't want to happen and start focusing on what you do want to happen, and it could be as simple as, I don't want to think about this anymore. I acknowledge whatever emotion or situation that I'm in, but I'm done. And then I try to distract myself with something else. Do you do that with your kids?
Probably not as much as I should. Yesterday in the car, Jacob, he got in trouble in the house. He came out and I was waiting to take him to karate. And he said, you should just give me to the orphanage because I'm ruining this family.
No. I'm trying to.
And I was like, okay, let's de-escalate that because first of all, no matter how much trouble you get in, no matter how criticized you feel, you're always loved.
Right.
Like I can be
absolutely
annoyed with you, angry with you, whatever. I always love you. You're always a part of this family.
Oh, so I love him.
That's where I go with it. But I should probably, in order to kind of get in front of why he's feeling that way or why he's feeling so downtrodden on himself, I should probably maybe look for a different tactic like that.
Well, let's play a little bit more. So this is what, again, former First Lady Michelle Obama talking with Conan O'Brien on his podcast.
I haven't said that, but I like that.
Right. But this is, what you're doing with Nev is what a lot of us don't do in our parenting. Like we don't help our kids, especially these days, practice their way through their fear, their anxiety. Our generation of parents, we try to prevent them from feeling it at all.
Yeah.
That's the helicopter part of it.
Yes.
And I talk about how my mother and father deliberately tried to push us towards fear because, or push us through the fear because they knew what it looked like to be stuck in your sameness, stuck in your difference. And the tool that I'm offering parents is just that. Our kids should learn how to live in anxiety.
Yeah.
We shouldn't try to stop them from feeling it, just like we can't stop them from feeling failure because they have to learn how to practice through it.
Right.
And I think, outside of the kids who are dealing with real serious mental health issues, a lot of the problem is that we are over-parenting them. We don't want them to feel any fear because it makes us feel bad.
And I'm going to stop it again there. And that stuck with me so much because I find myself, especially as my daughter is trying to navigate the tail end of middle school and the beginning of high school, and you hear stories and you come home and it's both worse and better. You really know the parents and you're friends with them. Trying to insert yourself into the situation, thinking that in some way you're going to fix it, and you're not going to fix it. You're in many cases going to make it worse. And so I find myself, and I literally just had a conversation with a couple of moms yesterday. My light keeps going out for some reason, but I apologize for that. But I just had a conversation with some moms, and we were talking about, well, I didn't want to say anything because then it might happen to X, Y, and Z might happen. And I'm like, well, my kid went through it and it sucked. And, I did a little bit of helicoptering, but then I pulled back on it. And my kid has grown because of it. They figured out, how to handle the situation when it arose again. They hung out with these people instead of those people. And so, not that I'm patting myself on the back because it sucked and I don't think I did it 100% right, but we can't we can't prevent it because what we're actually doing is preventing their growth. And that's
So
awful.
Right.
So go ahead.
I think a good thing to provide parents would to be, and I mean, some people do it naturally, but maybe teach people how to do that, because I don't know how to parent through anxiety.
Yeah.
I want it to stop. I want to change his mindset, but I sometimes don't have the right tools or tricks to do that. And I think what you say, how you say it, works differently on each child. So
Oh, of course.
how do you know the right thing to say to get them to think differently about
Yeah.
themselves, about what they're going through? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And Michelle kind of talks about this. Michelle, she's my friend. The former first lady, Michelle
Isn't
Obama.
she?
I
Michelle.
know she is.
Shelly-O.
She talks about this conversation that she had with her daughter. And I love, because again, very relatable situation for people.
We step in and we try to fix it. So they never learn how to practice their way through it to get used to it. I remember when Sasha was she had to be not even in middle school, and she had, I'm on alert for every sign of anything that was going wrong with the girls, because I was like, I don't want this experience to screw them up, right?
Which is a legitimate
It's a
fear
legitimate
because they're in a fishbowl.
in a fishbowl, an odd situation, something Barack and I never experienced. So we're constantly managing our parenting. So she comes to me and she's like, "Mom, I'm feeling anxiety." And I'm thinking, whoa, big word for a, 6th grader. I was like, well, tell me what's going on. Sit down. And she basically describes the fact that she gets anxious when she hasn't done her homework, when she has a test, when she's procrastinated.
Yeah.
I was like, well, you're supposed to have those feelings, that you don't get medication, because the immediate response in the culture she was in was, maybe I need medication. And I was like, no. You have to learn. If you don't want to feel that kind of anxiety, then go to bed on time, do your homework on time.
Yeah.
You have to work your way through that. And sometimes as parents, because we just don't want our kids to suffer any failing, we stop those emotions from happening. And the thing that happens is that the first time your kid has to deal with anxiety, they're 30 years old.
Yeah.
They're out of your house, and you do not want your child to be practicing learning how to deal with their anxiety when they're in their 30s or in their 20s or after they graduate from college. So what you're doing with Nev is that you're giving her some tools to help talk her through what are natural emotions that we all have to deal with. We all feel fear. We all feel anxious. It's a part of the human experience. I think that's why so many of us struggled with quarantine and COVID and where the news is, because we don't like uncertainty.
Yeah.
But uncertainty is baked into the human experience. There's no way around it, Life is unfair and it is uncertain. So let's stop trying to not feel that stuff. And now let's work on developing our tools, identifying the tools we have.
And so, and then it went on. And I thank you guys for letting me play that. I just think that she was just nailing it so much, but also pointing out why articles come out about words we can't use anymore. Right? I mean, all of these things, it's making me feel a certain way and I don't like it. So we have to change everything about society. Now, I'm not saying no words are, can be changed or whatever, but it's this idea of never feeling discomfort, never being offended, never being anxious, never being fearful, never being ignored, never being ostracized, left out, all of these emotions that suck, right? I mean, who wants to feel those ways? But you have to. You have to know light and dark, right? You don't know either, probably. And so it's one of those things where having our children experience pain, whether emotional, obviously, not wanting to abuse our children and yell and scream at them so they know what it's like to be yelled and screamed at by a parent, but understanding that life has these natural moments where bad feelings arise, anxious feelings arise, and they're natural. They happen to nearly all of us, and we need to figure out how to deal with it.
Yeah, it's part of the human experience.
Right.
I mean, you're not going to go sailing through life never feeling any stress.
Right.
Sometimes things are stressful. sometimes when they come to you for news and you have nothing written, it's a moment of panic. This is the way of the world, right? So
Well,
I'm just saying, like,
yeah.
yeah, that sometimes not everything, but it's the way that I guess why do we have to? I mean, does no one ever taught you? Did anyone ever teach you when you're growing up how to cope with that stress, or did you just kind of naturally come into it?
Well, I think it's a difference of how people are being raised then versus now. I mean, I'm not saying that my parents in any way like sat me down and talked about those things, but we had moments naturally as a family, right? Where my parents were disappointed in me, or I got caught doing something that wasn't right. Or, for instance, my brother, and I told this story before, he stole something when he was 2 years old from the store. My mom walked his ass right back in there. He was embarrassed. I remember my dad, making sure I felt bad when I embarrassed my brother in front of people. It was important, and it's something I instill in my family of your siblings, and my parents always instilled it. You back each other up. Now, you may not agree or anything like that, but you don't do it in front of people, right? Like, that's your family. So those sorts of things. But you own up to your mistakes. You definitely do that, and you speak up and you use your voice.
Back to Jacob again.
I
I got a call from my dad yesterday.
Okay.
When we were in Oregon over Thanksgiving.
Okay.
Apparently, Jacob found a pen.
Oh, no.
And left messages on a dining room chair and on the back of some decorative pillows.
Oh, no.
So,
Did they tell you what he wrote?
No, I probably just squiggles or whatever.
Jacob was here.
So I said, Jacob, why'd you do that? He says, I really don't remember doing it. I think he really doesn't remember doing it. He
was probably doodling. He was probably doodling. Yeah. I mean,
but there's no one else it could have been. And so I made him call my dad and apologize.
Good.
And say he was sorry that he did it. But it's those moments where, yeah, it caused him anxiety that he had to make that phone call. Yes, that was uncomfortable for him to have to say, hey, listen, I don't remember doing this, but
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, because obviously I did it. And I'm really sorry that I didn't treat your house with respect.
Yeah. And that's not an easy thing for a kid to do. It's not easy. It goes all the way back to even just ordering your own food at a restaurant, right? Looking somebody in the eye. I taught, teaching your kid how to shake somebody's hand, so they don't feel so, I can't look at you. And with the phones and the social media, people are so looking down all the time. They don't know how to interact face to face with each other. No wonder they're anxious. No wonder they're over medicated, because they just don't know how to deal with all of those emotions. And so I just think it's so timely, and we're going to keep seeing the effects of it until we get it together and realize some things cause us anxious moments. We work through it, and there's light on the other side. All right. Speaking of things that can reduce your anxiety, if you're feeling anxious, let's say, about taxes, your financial situation, HR, you have a small business, you don't know what the hell you are doing, there is a simple thing you can do. You can take a deep breath in, you can take a deep breath out, and then you can pick up the phone and call Steve Moskowitz, our exclusive founding sponsor, who I am sure, Steve, you have experienced the lightening of anxiety of the people you work with every single day.
All the time, and what some of your colleagues used to say when they would visit my office before the pandemic is when they were waiting to see me, they would see the faces coming in and they'd see the faces going out, and that told the whole story. And the most recent case I've had like that was just today. I talked to a very nice gentleman. He did have a serious tax problem he was really, really worried about, and we can totally fix it. And I told him that, and now he'll be able to sleep the sleep of the innocent.
I love it.
He'll be able to enjoy his meals, his life, just have a normal life. We'll take care of it. But that is so important, because it's like a medical problem. If you think, oh my God, I got this horrible problem and it's going to kill me, but I'm going to suffer horribly first. And the doctor says, no, here, take this pill and you'll be fine. A lot of times that's what we can do for clients. And I want to do it. And I believe that that's what a good lawyer should do, is take the client's case and literally take it away from him, so he doesn't have that horrible burden on his back. And the difference between us and the taxpayer is we know what to do, like a physician. Right. If God forbid, a loved one is laying on the floor bleeding, you don't know what to do. You feel horrible, but you don't know what to do. The doctor knows what to do. Well, that's the situation we have here. We know what to do. We want to help you. And in most cases, we can take care of everything for you, and you're not going to have the horrible things that you were afraid of.
You had mentioned something briefly when I was talking about my in-laws yesterday, talking about how they had this old tax problem and they went to somebody else and they wanted to call you, and you're like, I could still help them. What do you mean by that? Because I'm sure there's people watching our show that are like, oh, I had that problem. It's probably too long ago, or, some sort of statutes of limitation has passed. I don't know. Does that exist? And is it ever too late to call you?
Well, sure, sometimes it is, but a lot of times it's not. For example, you can have a problem from years ago where you owed some tax, or the government said you owed some taxes and you're paying them, and it winds out that you didn't owe them, and we can fix it. It's like you see these cases sometimes where somebody goes to prison for years, and then some other lawyer takes the case and the person's released because, no, they didn't have sufficient evidence against them. So
Yeah.
the bottom line is, yes, sometimes there's a statute of limitations, but a lot of times there's not. And again, I would much rather talk to somebody and say, look, even if the statute ran, okay, it ran, put it out of your mind, as opposed to, hey, we can still do something. And
Yeah.
in those cases, in a bunch of them, we can still do something.
There you go. So give Steve a call. It may not be too late for you, right? You may not have to owe the government any more money. How about that? So give him a call, 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. That's 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. Thanks, Steve. Love
Thanks
ya.
so much, guys.
Bye. Yeah, I mean, come on. Think about that, right? It's never too late. Give him a call. It's one phone call.
You know what I took from all that?
Mm.
People at Station X were invited to Steve Moskowitz's office, and I was not among them.
Well, maybe that's because they hired him, Kim McAllister.
As Mark says, I'm not going to cry.
Well, I am sure because he's going to be doing our taxes, right, Kim? There we go. And we'll be able to go see all of those happy faces coming right out of his office.
Yeah,
okay.
absolutely.
Okay, coming up, I want to touch on some of the comments that are coming in about what we were talking about before, because a lot of you have some great comments. But then we're going to lighten it up towards the end of the show. Did you know that maybe if you have a Roomba in your house, you should make sure that you close that bathroom door? I'll explain that. Also, I have to get to the dominatrix who had to attend who went to the city commission meeting. That's something you're going to want to watch. And if I have time, I will finally get to the salad that got people high. Now, I've never had a salad like that. I would probably eat a lot. Well, no, I wouldn't eat this salad. I would not want this to happen to me. But I'll get to all of that coming up right after the news.
Now, from around the world to up your street, the Nikki Medoro Show presents News Czar Kim McAllister.
And this report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz at 888-TAX-DEAL. Police in the Bay Area are still investigating reports that a woman, possibly with a gun, inside the San Jose Public Library, the Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Library at San Jose State, may have been seen in the restroom area. A campus spokesperson says authorities have set up a perimeter around that building. No injuries reported, no contact with anyone with a weapon has been made. The public has been asked to avoid that area if at all possible, and this is still underway. You will need to wear a mask once again inside government buildings in the city of Oakland. That is because of a rising COVID rate. In Alameda County, the city council voted unanimously to reinstate masks for everyone aged 6 and older inside city facilities. That goes into effect immediately. A new study shows U.S. companies located in Western states may rarely disclose wildfire safety danger. The report from UC Davis shows those firms are required to report those types of threats to the Security and Exchange Commission, but data shows only a little over 6% of companies put that information in annual reports. The study says wildfires not only pose physical damage, they can also cause economic harm to stockholders. On top of the reporting the risks, researchers suggest those firms should also take a number of fire prevention steps, like guidelines for employees or possibly moving headquarters to different locations. Travelers are being warned of the so-called flightmare before Christmas. More than 400 flights have been canceled so far. About 3,000 have been delayed today because of a massive winter storm moving from the western to the eastern U.S. Parts of the Midwest, the East, and the South may see what they call bomb cyclone conditions in the coming days. NASA's Mars InSight mission dead after 4 years. The spacecraft landed on Mars to measure the planet's seismological shaking, but dropped contact on December 15th. Dust has been gathering on its solar panels, blocking out the sunlight, and it needs to generate power. So it looks like it's dead for the time being, and maybe forever. Consumer confidence is up. A report released by business think tank Conference Board shows the consumer confidence index jumped higher than economists had predicted. Now, this month's reading is the highest for the index since April. The Conference Board's senior director of economic indicators said consumers have a more favorable outlook on the economy and jobs, and that is what factored into the increase. It's kind of something cool going on in San Francisco today. Firefighters are inviting the public to come check out their winter-themed party because they hauled 15 cubic yards of snow from the Sierra this morning. Can you imagine driving up to the Sierra, packing the trucks full of snow, hauling the snow back to the city? Yes, the snow is being kept as cold as possible right outside of the fire station in San Francisco on 25th Street. Folks are encouraged to bring an unwrapped gift for the firefighter kids toy drive. They're going to start the festivities at 7 p.m. until 10 tonight. Judges will be visiting every neighborhood fire station tonight to determine the winner of the San Francisco Fire Department's annual holiday decorating contest. But mad props to whoever hauled all that snow from the Sierra here to the Bay Area. Oh, you're muted.
It must have been a big truck for it to bring all that snow and then have it stay cold. So fun time. It's gonna get dirty real quick.
Probably more than one truck, right?
I would hope so.
And lastly, cops in North Texas are searching for the Grinch who stole a statue of the baby Jesus.
Oh, why does every year somebody steals the Jesus? Leave the Jesus alone.
It was snatched over the weekend from a nativity scene at the Sundance Square in Fort Worth, Texas.
Oh, the Texas did it? Oh my goodness.
The shopping area posted surveillance video footage on social media asking for the public's help in identifying the man. He could face charges of vandalism. Just give the baby Jesus back.
Give it back.
This report sponsored by tax attorney Steve Moskowitz. For more than 30 years, Steve has put his tax knowledge to work for individuals and for businesses. If you need help with your taxes, it's time to call Steve Moskowitz, 888-TAX-DEAL or MoskowitzLLP.com. I'm Kim McAllister on The Nikki Medoro Show.
Yes, indeed. All right. I think our last conversation about Michelle Obama was awesome. So many of you had some great comments. I think that when we talk about teaching our kids the harder parts of life, did your parents ever tell you this, Kim? Like, life's just not fair. Who said life was fair? My dad would say that to me all the time. I go, that's not fair. He's like, who said it was going to be fair? Whoever said that life is going to treat you the same way it treats your friend right across the street? Nobody says that. And now, and then Mo Direct, my God, if this is you, my heart goes out to you. But again, what happens to the parents gets passed down to the children, and those kids have no, you have no control over the family that you're brought into, right? Or what happens to that family. And it's hard. It really can be hard to deal with. That is a good point, Eric Kennedy, talking about the stolen baby Jesus. You are absolutely correct, my friend. The baby Jesus should never be stolen. Not until Christmas. Because, there was another cartoon, just kind of to keep it on this tip, where it was the Flintstones cartoon, and they were celebrating Christmas, but they were supposed to be there before Christ. Like, what are you celebrating? So it's like, don't get timelines factored into holidays, people. Just go with it.
If that's what causes you to suspend disbelief of the Flintstones, I think we have a bigger problem.
Okay. And then Eric also wrote in, I hope the dominatrix story is better than the stupid cat lady story going around. I don't know the cat lady story, but I do know the dominatrix story. So let's just start with that one, shall we? So I don't know about you. Now, I have gone to many a city council meeting. They can be really boring. They can be entertaining. We've played clips of hilarious ones because anybody can show up, right? You fill out the comment card, you get to say something. Well, check this lady out. Here we go.
Good evening, council people. You may call me mistress. I am here standing neutral to the motion approving an agreement for the proprietary purchase of yard waste processing and disposal. I do, however, find it interesting that you will spend almost $1 million to hide your secrets down the drain. Hiding that condom I know you used to cheat on your spouse with. So, I propose that you use a quarter of that mill to support doms and subs in Broward County to build a dungeon created for us by us, the taxpayers and voting citizens. In closing, do not let glamorous look distract you from doing your duty to take my demand. I look forward to spanking each and every single one of you at the new esteemed dungeon. You are dismissed.
You are dismissed.
Okay, thank you.
Oh my God.
It's to you.
And happy holidays to you.
Anyone else wish to speak?
How do you even keep a straight face? I want to see them walk out in their little like.
I mean, you know, she had a point. She's like, you know, if you're going to spend $1 million on the sewer system to throw your used dirty condoms away, how about you build me a dungeon? I swear to God. I mean, it has to be extremely boring most of the time. And then just absolutely hilarious some of the time to be on some of these, you know, board seats, city council seats, because some of the people that just want their 2 minutes, right? That's what they get, 2 minutes to speak. 2 minutes of fame has to be hilarious. But yeah, I don't think they took up her issue.
You are dismissed.
You are dismissed. I will spank you later. All right. Who has a Roomba? I've always wanted one, but I don't have one. Do you have one of those? The Roombas, the vacuum cleaner?
My dad has one and they love it. I mean, they never have to vacuum. They have hardwood floors though. I have too many surfaces, toys, crap. There's
they
so
find
much,
it though.
My Roomba would get trapped, you know, messed up. Yeah.
Well, the technology apparently is getting better and better and better. But there is a warning that it could perhaps show you in intimate positions, even if you don't want it to.
Oh.
So apparently, there was this review of a woman back in 2020 where the Roomba took a picture of her sitting on the toilet, as well as several others capturing intimate moments that were collected by Roomba, and not only collected by the Roomba, but then shared on social media accounts.
Smile. You're on the Roomba.
Right? Okay. So there's an explanation. Roomba is coming out with an explanation. I'm saying just shut the bathroom door because I'm not buying it. Okay. So iRobot, which is behind the Roomba, confirmed to MIT Technology Review, where I'm getting this, that the images were in fact captured by Roomba. So it did take the pictures, but it wasn't a hack or anything nefarious. It was part of a program to develop their high-end Roomba J7 AI capabilities. iRobot broke down the details here. Okay. They are not consumer Roombas. They were specifically outfitted with recording equipment for this development program. People were paid to participate in the program and knew the Roombas would be sending data and video back to the company. Okay. The devices were labeled with a bright green sticker that read video recording in progress, and participants were cautioned to keep anything sensitive out of spaces that the robots would be cleaning in. Okay. So there's all these warnings, but how did it get up? How did all these pictures get up on social media? Apparently the images and video were sent by iRobot to a startup called Scale AI, and it uses a global workforce to label audio, photo, and video for a process called data annotation. An investigation revealed that Venezuelan gig workers posted the toilet bowl pic and other images to private groups on Facebook, Discord, and other platforms to collaborate on their work. And of course, it's out there.
Sure.
And your ass shot got spewed all over social media. So when you make things smarter than you are, these bad things happen, right?
Do you have a Roomba? I didn't ask you. Do you have one?
I wanted one.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've got a little bit of tile, and then I've got like Pergo laminate floors.
Right.
And this is the only room that has carpet in it. So I don't think Nugget would like it, if we're going to be honest. And it's all about the dog, my canine co-anchor over here. Nugget would lose his freaking mind with that thing rolling around the house. So he'd destroy it. He would probably pounce on it and destroy it like he does every single one of his toys. So it would be a waste of money. But I'd love it. I'd love to not vacuum ever again, especially in the winter. He's in and out of the backyard, tracking in dirt and mud and all kinds of stuff. So can't have mops
I
everywhere.
just feel like every time I vacuum, I suck up something hard, a tiny little Lego,
Oh
some
yeah.
type of item someone's left behind, and I'm constantly having to stop and like fix the vacuum cleaner or make my
Yes.
husband
What
fix
kind
the
of
vacuum
vacuum do
cleaner.
you have?
I don't know. I don't know what it is. Shark, some
Oh.
type of shark. It's
Oh,
nothing
okay.
special. It's not like a Dyson or
Dyson.
anything.
So a
Um,
Dyson is what I have. My
Ooh.
husband bought it for me the day we bought our house in Sacramento, and that was in 2008, and we
Oh.
still have it.
That's an
So
old vacuum.
that's an
You s-
old
Yeah.
vacuum that I have, and it's still sucking.
Still rolling.
So
But I mean, if I have to stop with my vacuum and, untangle things or whatever, you can bet that a Roomba's
Roomba's
going
not gonna
down.
do anything, yeah.
No.
I mean, I don't care, and it doesn't seem like it'd be able to suck up everything. So we don't have a lot of dog hair because Nugget doesn't really shed. But like dust bunnies and stuff is about it. But he, like I just mentioned, he tears the guts out of all these toys that we bring in specifically
Yeah.
for him to destroy. And so it's all these like big balls of cotton that I have to like get the wand of the Dyson out and go
Yeah.
because the regular vacuum part's not gonna suck it up. So I don't know if a Roomba would do anything. And if it's not gonna pick that up, what the hell do I need it for? Right?
Right.
Not gonna happen. All right, I have time. Dozens of people in Australia inadvertently consumed spinach that had been contaminated with an unknown toxin, causing them to experience symptoms including hallucinations.
Oh.
So, Queensland Health had to put out a notice on Sunday urging people not to consume a number of baby spinach products following cases of this food related toxin. More than 114 people in Australia across 4 states reported the effects after eating the affected spinach. Health officials say, I'm trying to find the name of the chemical that they called it. But yeah, so one person says, I feel like my body was moving when it's not. It began 10 to 15 minutes after she ate the spinach, which, just to let you know, she purchased at a Costco in Australia. All right. This person's like, I feel dizzy. I need someone to hold me and stand and support me to walk. Another person, for a moment, I feel that I had some kind of medication, which makes your body go numb and you can't feel anything. I have weird feelings. Sounds funny, but it wasn't. I'm not
I
finding in
mean,
this article
I
the
guess I would
type, but
imagine it would be pretty dangerous. And you think it's funny, but people could be at work or they could be eating a salad
oh,
while
it's not
driving,
funny.
or
Yeah. I just,
they could be working as a doctor and then all of a sudden they're high and patients start coming in. Like, yeah.
yeah. So, again, whenever people talk about, healthy foods, salads, spinach, chocolate cake never made me hallucinate, but my spinach apparently did.
Or
And
getting the wrong salad.
Lori said, just about to eat my baby spinach salad. Yeah. I told you guys my favorite salad is a baby spinach salad with feta cheese and dried cranberries and almonds and feta cheese. Some fungi are hallucinogens. Yeah. Psilocybin. That's the magic mushrooms that everybody's been getting high off of. Speaking of things to eat, did you know that there are things in your pantry that you can use to clean your house? And I'm not talking about vinegar. I'm not talking about baking soda. Kim McAllister, I am talking about bread. You can use bread to clean your home. Okay.
Like as a sponge or what?
So that's one use. You can dab oil, sauces, wine, really most liquids with bread. This was in Country Living, this whole list. Okay.
That sounds asinine.
It says, Country Living reports the gluten in bread acts as a magnet for dirt. So if you're plagued by smudges of mysterious provenance on walls, cabinets, and door frames, which who doesn't, right? A balled up slice of white or rye bread works as a natural eraser. Take the crust off the slice, roll it the remainder into a sponge, and dab it against the offending mark to lift it. Don't rub too hard. Obviously, it would leave behind crumbs, and then you have another thing to friggin' clean up. Another thing to clean, rice. You can use rice to clean your coffee grinder.
Yeah.
So before grinding, you grind it up into like kind of a powder. You put it in there and it cleans all the kind of stuff up. If you don't have a bottle brush for your reusable containers and water bottles, uncooked rice works there too. Pour a small amount, about 1/8 to 1/4 of a cup, into a vessel. You know, like some of those bottles, you don't have anything that can fit in it. Along with a few drops of dish soap, a dash of water, not to cover the rice, but just a little bit to suds it up. Shake it, dump it out, rinse it with water. This is one I'm going to use. Do you have a wood table at home? Do you have a wood table? Okay, listen to this one. And I would have never thought about this ever.
I have wood desks here too.
Do you have any water rings on it?
No, but my coffee table does. Because
Okay.
you know.
Yes, my kids have destroyed it. So I still have to try this. Maybe I'll do a video for that and I'll test this one out. Apparently, if you want to remove water stains and rings on wood, get mayonnaise. Take mayonnaise, okay, and slather it on, okay, and leave it there for a few hours or overnight. Actually, overnight. In the morning, just wipe the mayonnaise away with a dry cloth. If there's any remaining marks, apparently you could lay a cloth over the surface and then place a hot iron on top just using the steam feature. But that could kind of, possibly ruin the finish. But apparently mayonnaise works because the oil, it doesn't evaporate or dry out like vegetable oil. The mayonnaise, because of obviously everything else, it stays on there and actually distributes the moisture in the finish of your table, and it takes the ring away.
Wow.
I'm giving you guys holiday cleaning tips. I'm a giver, okay? I'm a giver. Is there one more that I have? Oh, and let's see this one. Tea. The tannins in tea remove grease and naturally shine surfaces. So if you brew a batch of weak tea, pour it in a spray bottle, you can remove dirt and fingerprints from glass. I like this for those days where I run out of Windex and I forgot to buy anymore, so I could clean things up. So you can use tea to do all of that. And then there's like salt, and everyone knows salt. But the mayonnaise one, the mayonnaise one kind of stuck out with me. So got to get ready for all of the guests that are coming to my house tomorrow. So tomorrow we are having a live show. We're off Friday and Monday. Do you have family coming in? Is your parents coming in or?
Everybody lives in Petaluma except my dad, and we went there for
right.
Thanksgiving. So
that's right.
My
That's
husband
right.
is from Michigan, so he has family in Michigan. But yeah, we spend Christmas here in Petaluma.
So they're not coming from Michigan. They're staying there. Oh, we're going to have full houses in the Lesser / Medoro household. So we're going to have a great old time, but we have a great show tomorrow. There's a bunch of stuff that I didn't get to. Did you guys see that 49er prank? I do want to get into that tomorrow. That's fun. And of course, it'll be a holiday show, so we'll have a little bit of fun. Maybe I'll find a Friday food to do on Thursday. Send me ideas. Food? Ooh, well, give me ideas. Anybody have a holiday food that I should eat for tomorrow? It's not going to be fruitcake. All right. I've tried fruitcake. I don't like it. All right. Send me emails, theNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. On that note, of course, we do have our PayPal up and running for the show. I want to give a shout out to everybody that's been donating to the show, starting with Sue-Ann, who sent us $100 through our new PayPal account, which you could do at theNikkiMedoroShow@gmail.com. That's the PayPal email address. So $100 from Sue-Ann. Happy holidays to you. Again, thank you to Eric with a $5 super sticker. Kung Fu Femmes, happy holiday to you. $10 from you. Also $10 from Jim with the super sticker. And then CR with a $20. And I got to change it. I got to change it in my mind. It's not merch. It's Nikki Knacks. I mean, come on. It's like you're just writing this stuff for me. Oh, I love it. All right. So if you want to buy, of course, some Nikki Knacks that are like over my shoulder, just go to the Nikki Medoro Shop, SHOP.com. You can find a link, of course, at theNikkiMedoroShow.com, but you can go to theNikkiMedoroShop.com. And all of our merchandise is there. It's getting out. Send me pictures of you with your merchandise. I'd love to show them off on the show. We really, really do appreciate all of us, all of you guys supporting the show in any way you can, through the Patreon, through the Super Chat. It's absolutely awesome. We absolutely love all of you. Okay. Oh, cookies. Ooh, Celeste with the cookies. I do remember that at Station X. Yes, I do, Celeste, remember that. We'll have to find something fun. I have to get a white elephant gift today. I still have to get it. So maybe I'll find something to eat. But if you have any ideas, send them along to me because I definitely need something to do there. All right. Thanks to Kim and to all of you, and we'll talk tomorrow. Bye.
Nikki, you're all so awesome. Miss Brown, like a beautiful blossom. You're also the best. I really can't rest. You're all so awesome.
Wow. Okay.